close to half the show to Drake May and Jaden Daniels at this time last year. Like, we weren't talking much about the opponents. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to break this game down today. We're not going to talk about the coaches and this and that. We'll do some roster stuff, but this is a game that we're going to break down and talk about the X's and O's about, because the Patriots have gotten themselves back to that point, which it is very encouraging to me. Does that mean that, they're going to walk all over the Rams today? I don't think so. But, they've won 2 of 3 now, and they're starting to punch back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been a while. I mean, that's a great point you brought up. It's been a while that we actually focused on the football side of things and not everything else that's going on around the football. And I think today is going to be an interesting matchup to see. One of the bigger things is on the sidelines to see this Patriots coaching staff against, a coaching staff that everybody always mentions. Who I want a piece of McVay guy. I want this type of guy. And now you're going to go against a set of coaches and coordinators that can, have you in a real chess match today. And I think that's going to be the fun part about that game this afternoon.
And we talked about building the momentum on that last game. And that's going to be the challenge for the coaching staff here this week. Gerard Mayo talked about it on Wednesday that the Patriots need to learn how to stack wins. This is a team that has not won back-to-back games. By NFL schedule standards, it's exactly 2 years. So the last time the Patriots won back-to-back games, they actually won 3 in a row, weeks 8, 10, and 11. They had a bye. Weeks 8, 10, and 11 in 2022. And here we are. It's week 11. And they're going for back-to-back wins in week 10 and 11. And we talked about this, and I wrote about this a lot on 985thesportshub.com last week. The Patriots building on what they did last week. And look, the Rams are a better team than the Bears. I don't think that I'm breaking news to anybody. So and we'll start on the defensive side of the ball here. Look, they're not going to get 9 sacks. I mean, it'd be great. I'll take 9 sacks. Barmore, Ngakoue in the lineup, maybe, but no, they're not going to get 9 sacks today. But I don't know that, if they have 7 sacks, you could still, and that's an egregiously high number. 4 sacks, I still might say, all right, they matched their level of play from last week. They built on last week because they're going against a better unit. Now, the Rams' offensive line is banged up. They're down at least their starting right tackle. Their backup right tackle might be out too. They have a couple guys in the interior who have been out, who are back, but were rusty last week. So, building on last week to me is just don't let Matthew Stafford feel comfortable. Were you the one who used the line? Somebody used the line after the Jags game that Trevor Lawrence, they could have sent his jersey back to the pro shop and sold it, and nobody would have known the difference.
No, that wasn't me. That's a good one, though.
It is a good one. I wish I knew who said that. It might have been Brian Hines. I want to give credit because it's a good line. That's the kind of game that they can't have. And there's room between that and 9 sacks. But I am looking for the pass rush specifically to build on what they did last week.
Yeah, and not just the pass rush, man, the guys in the secondary. You're dealing with another really, really good receiving group. I mean, everybody knows the names over there, and you're dealing with a really good quarterback that's put up good numbers for a really long time, really smart guy, and a head coach that knows how to dial up the right stuff. So it's a real challenge, but again, it's going to come down to that defensive line. If they can, like you said, people don't look for the 9 sacks again, like you said, or 7 sacks. Just get pressure, get him off, get him moving to his left, get him moving to his right, get him out of that pocket. Stop the ground game again. Get them in 3rd and long and get in situations where Gonzalez and those other guys can make plays on the ball and get you off the field. So I think it's going to be a real interesting test. But I think things are looking real different. I know we get into it later about the guys that are either coming back or added to this D line. But I think they should be able to take advantage of a banged up offensive line. Again, you just can't bank on Stafford missing throws the way Caleb Williams, when he had time, was still missing guys. And I think that's the things they got to tighten up against this team.
Speaking of the coverage, so how do you line this up? Because Cooper Kupp is he's not the player he once was. And that seems pretty apparent, but he's still been productive.
He's still slick, man. He's slick.
He also have Puka Nacua. Covering, second receivers has been an issue for them this year. We'll see if Jonathan Jones is back there, if he's at safety. They didn't activate Alex Austin, so they won't have him. So that leaves you with Marcus Jones, Marco Wilson. Maybe we finally see some Isaiah Bolden at corner, but Who are you putting Christian Gonzalez on? Is it Cooper Kupp, who's less athletic but more savvy, or are you putting him on Puka Nacua, who's probably a little more explosive right now?
I'm putting him on Nacua. I think you take him away, size, all those other things. I think you need somebody on there who can not say match his size, but his athletic ability can cover up for the size difference there. I'd put him there, and I'd put Marcus Jones, on. If you're playing a lot of man, with the quicker feet, smaller guy, I'd put on Cooper Kupp because he's all about footwork and route running. I think he just needs somebody quicker underneath with that. He's not fast, but even last week you saw him make plays downfield where he was double moving guys. Like it was fun to watch, but yeah. I still think he's real shifty, and I think you put a smaller, shiftier guy on him and put Gonzalez on Nacua.
Let's get into you mentioned Christian Barmore.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible that he's active, first and foremost.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for people who maybe forgot, was diagnosed with a blood clot issue. Was it 2 days, 3 days in a training camp? Mm-hmm. Hadn't been on the field since. Wasn't on the field for the beginning of training. He was limited the first day. Hadn't been on since. Returned to practice on Thursday. Did not practice on Friday, but was activated yesterday, which leads me to believe he's going to play somewhat. I would not expect a big role. Again, he only had 1 day of practice. I'm not expecting a big role. Yeah. I'm not expecting really somewhere in what I am expecting is like somewhere in like 20-ish% of the snaps. Mm-hmm. I think you look at Thursday, the 1 day he practiced. Thursday is generally your third down day. So maybe he's exclusively on the field on third downs. But this is a team that their pass rush was non-existent 2 weeks ago. And I'm not saying they're suddenly going to turn into, it's not exactly the 85 Giants out there, Lawrence Taylor, but you add Christian Barmore, Yannick Ngakoue. I know they added last week, but he's going to make his debut this week. There is something there now, right? After they traded Josh Uche, it was Keon White who had been struggling and nobody else. And now you have Keon White. He maybe had a get-right game last week against the Bears. You add Barmore, you add Ngakoue. This thing starts to come together. I guess Barmore specifically, what are you expecting from him today? I want to get into him the rest of the season looking forward, but and same with Ngakoue, but what are you looking for from those two guys today specifically?
Well, when it comes to Barmore, not playing, like you said, not expecting him to get a ton of reps today, but I think it would benefit the rest of the defense if they could find a way to keep this team in third and long, because I think every time you get them in the third and long situation, here comes Barmore. I think when they get in obvious passing situations where all right, he's going to, some cases, get a double team up the middle and freeze up Keon White and the others on the outside, Ngakoue being one of them, I think you get in third and long to where you get opportunity to get this guy on the field and make a play for you and get off the field. And just look, for him to turn the game, all he needs is 2 good plays. Like, he doesn't need to be dominant the whole game, but a couple of good plays from a guy like that can turn a game for you. So I think you want to get them in third and long. He can get on the field, because if you get him in a bunch of, like the Jags game, he mentioned the clean jersey, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, over and over again, these long drives. He's not going to be out there like that. And you don't want to get him out there, and then all of a sudden they start going no huddle, and he can't get off the field, and now he's gassed. So you want to get in situations where you get him in third and long, get him off the field, and I think him and Ngakoue, along with Keon White, changes what this team looks like in those situations. But you got to get to those situations first, which means stopping the run. Oh, I mean, it could be the flip side, because he's probably the most dominant run stuffer they have too at this point. If they're running the ball a lot, do you throw him out there in first and second down and then let him get his breaks on third down on these passing downs? That way he's not chasing a quarterback around trying to make a play. So, I mean, it's interesting, but I don't see him out there. I wouldn't say full series, but I can see him on these obvious passing situations or possibly goal line situations with these teams against the Rams today.
I'm glad you brought up stopping the run, because that's a big point. That's a big point today, and they should be able to do it. So I mentioned the Rams are a tougher team than the Bears are, and overall that's true. They don't run the ball well. They ranked 31st in the NFL last year, averaging 3.8 yards per carry. So the Patriots should be keeping them off schedule. They should be keeping them behind the sticks. They shouldn't have a lot of third manageables from running the ball. If they do, the Patriots are in big trouble. It's beyond what Christian Barmore is doing. You can't let a team that's, again, second to worst run team in the league. You can't let them come into your building West Coast dome team comes into the Northeast. It's going to be like 50
Cold.
degrees. If they start running on you in those conditions, there's bigger problems.
And
They start going back to the soft conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Where do they rank as far as attempts? Do they even try and run the football?
Well, so that's why I use yards per carry and not yards. So the full breakdown, they don't run a lot. You're right. They're 24th in attempts. They're 26th in total yards. They don't even have 1,000 rushing yards yet this year. 847. But yards per carry. So just when they run the ball, how well do they run it? 3.8 yards per carry, 31st in the league. They are one of the better teams at stopping the run.
Yeah.
9th in the league at stopping the run, and we'll get to that. It's not going to be as easy to run the ball as it was last week. But the Patriots should be able to stop the run today. They're going to need to do that, keep them behind schedule, make Matt Stafford stand behind a line that was really bad last week against Miami and throw it, give Christian Barmore some chances, give Yannick Ngakoue some chances to make some plays, and maybe we see a pass rush from the home team at Gillette Stadium for the first time in a few weeks because they traded Matthew Judon, and I'm not saying that was wrong. You look at the season he's having in Atlanta, he wouldn't help much here right now.
No.
But they traded Matthew Judon. They traded Joshua Uche. They didn't really do much to address that position in the draft. Their one free agency signing, O'Shane Jimenez, tore his ACL, I think, week 2, week 3. So the pass rush has been decimated. They're getting a couple guys back today. Do we see it today, and do we see it moving forward? Moving forward this year, maybe even beyond this year? Because Christian Barmore is going to make his season debut today. Yannick Ngakoue, we think, is going to make his Patriots debut today. Is this maybe a little peek into the longer-ish term plan for the Patriots up front on defense? I want to get into those two guys specifically, what they could mean for the team moving forward. We'll do that next year as we're off and running on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
We just won a game last week versus the Bears, so just want to help, build on that energy and that momentum so we can continue it for the following weeks.
What was the message to you from Gerard?
Say it again?
What was the message for you from Gerard?
Just come here, just be a leader, help build to the culture, help provide on all 3 downs and, just play fast and physical.
That was Yannick Ngakoue this week speaking to Patriots media for the first time. So we talked a bit about Ngakoue last week. Cerrone, again, it's Alex Barth, Cerrone battle here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, taking you up till 10 o'clock. If you want to join us and talk Patriots, 617-779-0985. And one of the things we talked about with Ngakoue last week, Cerrone, and I'm glad we talked about it because it was a good point, was how engaged is he going to be? Mm-hmm. Guys coming from a true Super Bowl contender, some may say Super Bowl favorite in the Baltimore Ravens, coming to one of the worst teams in the league. And at the time, the Patriots were 2-7. They had just lost that game to the Titans. He's in a contract year. Was this going to be just, put your head down, get through, and get out, or was it going to add something? And just listen to him talk this week, talking to other guys about his impact this week, about his presence. He seems bought in. Mm-hmm. And not just bought in as like, yeah, all right, I'm going to, work hard and work to get my contract. He's taking on a leadership role.
Yeah.
Which this team needs, especially on defense. So, you look at this situation. Let's say this was still Bill in charge. What would we be talking about? All right, you bring this guy in off the street. You see what he can give you for 2 months, 3 months. And then, look, pass rushers, plural, are a need this offseason, plural.
Yeah.
Maybe you bring him back. Maybe you like what you see. He fits in the defense. He ends up as a leader, and boom, you just checked off a need. Now you're still going to need to give him a new contract.
Yeah.
He's on an expiring deal, but look, we're way ahead of ourselves here.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't bad against Baltimore. He wasn't bad, in Baltimore to start the year. He's not the guy he was in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm talking about. But so they need to find a replacement for Matthew Judon, who is their primary ace pass rusher. They also need a replacement for Joshua Uche, who is the second guy who's going to come in and capitalize when all the focus is on that first guy. Mm-hmm. Can Yannick Ngakoue be your Joshua Uche? If you go out and find the second guy somewhere else, free agency, the draft, whatever, I think he can still be that player for maybe another year or two. He's only 29, which surprised me when they first signed him, and I went to look. I thought he was going to be like 33, 34. He's only 29. So, realistically, should have another year or two left where he's, playing at a decent level. I'm interested to see what he does, because I don't think this is necessarily whatever they played, 10 games? I don't think this is 7 games and done. That's not to say that I think it's a guarantee he comes back, but it's a tryout. It's a tryout for the entire league. He's going to be a free agent, but the Patriots get the closest look at him. They get a look at what he's like inside the facility. That's going to be an interesting story for me for the rest of the year. Does Yannick Ngakoue show you enough that, they should look to bring him back and make him a part of the team? He's it's a bridge edge rusher, essentially. I don't know that he's a part of the long-term rebuild because he is 29. Mm-hmm. But, for a year or two, as you address other positions, can he give you something in the pass rush?
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, one thing you brought up was showing leadership. And I think the fans, us, we're going to be looking so much and focusing on what he's doing on the field and say, oh, yeah, he was good. He ended the season with 4 sacks in 7 games or whatever it may be, that's not a bad number to have. But I think
if he does that,
if he does that, yes. I think what Mayo and Wolf and the rest of these guys are looking at is, like you said, what is he doing in the locker room? It's like, do we keep him around not just because of, his stats, but because we have an older veteran presence, a guy in there who can be a teacher, a guy that could be fundamentally sound, that could show these younger guys, Keon White, hey, you're great, but if you do this, this, and this, you can be even better. Are you bringing in somebody like that? There's a lot of those guys have been around the league, all leagues and all sports for years, and they hang around because they're just so good in the locker room. They're so good to have on your roster. And when you have a young team like this who don't really have a lot of leaders, And look at everybody that had this C on this on the jersey. They're all out halfway through the season. So you need more veterans and more leaders on this team. And look, if he does this, if he gets his numbers, he's doing the stuff in the locker room. And on the flip side, he's enjoying his moment and wants to hang around with you going forward and doesn't want to leave and go somewhere else. I think that's a win-win for everybody. And it's also is he willing to sacrifice for when that guy does come? Say they do land an edge rusher in the second round of the draft, some hot kid from Michigan, Alabama, wherever. Is he going to be willing to, I'm gonna turn into a situational player. I'll just gonna come in on third down, whatever, and be a part of a team similar to, I'm gonna go back. I know it's gonna sting the Patriot fans a little bit, but the Giants teams back in the early 2000s, 2010, where they had 4 or 5 edge rushers that they would just throw out there. It was that NASCAR unit, whatever they called them.
Yep.
And do you have a unit like that where everybody plays their role and they're happy with that? I just saw an interview with Tuck recently. He was on the podcast talking about all those guys willing to sacrifice. Man, if I didn't play with OC, if I didn't play with Strahan, I might have had 100 sacks, but it was all about winning. Is he going to be willing to play a role as an edge rusher? If he checks all those boxes, then you got to keep a guy like that around just to have depth for one, veteran leadership for the other, and a teacher in your locker room.
So, look, this is his 7th team in 5 years, 6th franchise. He's played for the Ravens twice, talking about Ngakoue. Seventh team in 5 years. Is there some reason he keeps moving around? Now, a lot of these pass rushers specifically, there is kind of this hired gun thing at that position where you'll see guys, Jadeveon Clowney's been doing this for years. Chase Young seems set up for it. And some of these guys are good players, but this is what they do. They just kind of go team to team, year to year, wherever they can get the paycheck. So maybe that's what this is with Ngakoue. Maybe he looks at it and says, man, I'd like to, not have to move. Right. I'd like to not have to move once, twice a year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But he's an interesting player to watch. Again, I'm not saying this is all going to happen, but I don't think it's a lock that it's like, all right, he's here for 7 games and we'll never see Yannick Ngakoue again. It's not. This is a super random reference. Remember when the Red Sox traded for Yoenis Cespedes at the trade deadline all those years ago, and it was like so clear he wasn't going to be here. Like they were just running that thing out. I think it was Cespedes. But it was the Lester deal. He ended up here for like 4 months. He ended up here for like 4 months. Everybody kind of knew like he wasn't going to be here.
You knew what the deal was.
This might not be that. This might be a guy that can stick around. Meanwhile, the other guy coming on the field today for the Patriots for the first time this season is Christian Barmore. We talked about his impact in this game in the last segment, but just like big picture, I guess, what are you looking for from him this year? I'm not expecting him to come out of the gate, on fire. He's been through a lot. I think the benefit of getting him back now, and I've seen people wonder, why do you bring him back to a 3-7 team? Even some people may say rush him back. He can use the next 7 weeks. And 7 weeks is a long time. Maybe he gets it really going by the time we get to around Christmas. But now he doesn't come on the field next year totally rusty. Now it's not this whole thing. And we've seen whether it be, I always go back to Le'Veon Bell and his holdout. The better example is the guys that didn't play the COVID year. We saw it with Deshaun Watson. Look, every player is different, but for the most part, the guys that miss a season for a non-physical injury, they tend to take a little bit of time coming back if they get back. So the fact that Barmore can get back now, work the rust out now, I think the biggest thing for me is this is beneficial for the Patriots in 2025 because we don't have to do the whole thing in training camp. What kind of shape is he in? Is he, does he look like this? Does he look like that? Is he going to need time? I think he just hits the ground running, and maybe it looks a little rusty right now. Totally worth the trade-off to me.
Yeah, I think, and a part of it for the coaching staff is with him out there, not today, but maybe in most of December, you see what you have. You see I see him out there with Keon White. I see him out there with Gonzalez, which you didn't get to see last year, really, because Gonzalez missed after 2/3 of the season. But you get to see what you have. You get to see his impact. And now you go into the offseason and say, okay, now I just need to add this, and this around that. And now we have our defense set. If you don't put him out there, Mayo has got his first season as a head coach without his best interior lineman. So he doesn't really know. Him and Wolf are going to an oil. They know. I mean, they've coached as in other roles. They've been around him. But when they're running the show, they need to see what he can do, what impact he has on defense, what they can do to build around that. If they want to switch up defensive philosophy going into the next season, okay, I think we need to play more like this, and this. But you don't know if those guys aren't on the field. It's similar to what we were saying about Drake May early in the season. When Drake May's not there in his percent, you're just running a vanilla offense. You're doing your thing, but you don't know his impact on the offensive line, the receivers, the tight ends, and the ground game until you put him on the field. And I think that's that's the case with Barmore. Once he's out there, and you're going to see flashes of it, I think today, of what kind of impact he has on everybody else. And then you say, okay, we can play more man, or we're going to have to play more zone. We can bring more pressure, or we don't have to bring pressure at all because this guy is just a machine on the inside, and it allows us to do other things in the back end. So I think it's more of like a study session or a learning session with him out there to see what they can have and build around going forward.
We'll get more into Barmore's return. We'll get more into Patriots-Rams with Doug Kyed of the Boston Herald. He joins us next here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Stadium. It's Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, and we are joined by Doug Kyed. He covers the Patriots for the Boston Herald. Doug, good morning.
Alex, how's it going?
Good. Getting ready to head back to Gillette. Feels like it's been a while. It's very blocky schedule. Hasn't been a lot of home games, a lot of road games back and forth. The Patriots are back at home today, back with Christian Barmore. Let's start there. Story of the day. What are you expecting from Christian Barmore today, and are you surprised we're seeing him back in game action this soon?
I would expect a limited role, maybe limited to pass rushing, third down, an area where, outside of last week, the Patriots could actually really use some help. Anthony Jennings, Keion White, those guys have kind of been holding down the fort on the edges, but they could really use an interior pressure option like Christian Barmore up there. And, I mean, if you told me on Wednesday that Christian Barmore would be playing in this game after having not practiced that day, I would have told you I'd be shocked. But then, when he practiced Thursday, that obviously opened the door a little bit. Friday morning, Gerard Mayo said that Barmore could play, but then him not practicing on Friday obviously turned this back into a little bit of a surprise. But based on what I was hearing from sources, he can't exert too much energy in back-to-back days as he's weaning off of blood thinners. So that explains why he's practicing Thursday, not practicing Friday, but now able to play on Sunday. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how any of this stuff works. Even the people that I talked to were like, I don't totally understand it, but this is what's going on. So that's really the explanation for why you can practice Thursday, not practice Friday, and now be playing on Sunday.
With him being on the field, like you said, the third down opportunities or stuff like that, and possibly goal line situations or whatever, who do you think benefits the most from his presence? Let's say if he's just him on the field, outside of his own production, who benefits the most out of this? Is it Keion White, or is it the secondary? Like, who do you see really, really stepping up now that he's out there on the field?
I do actually think it would be Keion White, because this is something that Devon Godchaux was saying earlier this week. You can't really double team the edge defenders now when you've got Christian Barmore in the middle of the defense. So it would probably be the edge defenders the most. One of those guys is going to be Keion White. The other one might actually be Yannick Ngakoue in this game. Expect to see him make his Patriots debut. He might be taking on some of those third down opportunities that Anthony Jennings had in the past. Obviously, it benefits the secondary as well, but I think that Keion White could eat in this game.
In order to make room for Barmore, the Patriots released Tyquan Thornton yesterday. We haven't talked about this yet, so you get to be the first one on the show to weigh in on it. Were you surprised by that? And I guess just big picture, now, looking back at the Tyquan Thornton era in New England, what do you think went wrong there? Was it just a bad pick? Was it a player development thing? Was it just the injuries, as is sometimes the case in the NFL? What do you think was the big reason that didn't work out?
I think it boils down to pick. And I was actually reading through some of my reporting back from 2022. And, most people at the time were shocked they didn't went that high. There were some people who thought that a team behind them was interested in Tyquan Thornton as well, which is why the Patriots might have picked him there. But I mean, he had the speed, but that was about it. Even as I was reading through this stuff, I had kind of forgotten, he's got 8 1/4-inch hands, which is just extremely small.
It was the wrist size, right? He had the smallest wrists of anybody ever at the combine or something.
Really small wrists as well. And it's just the amount of wide receivers, even that just have 8 1/4-inch hands, who want to have success, was an extremely limited sample size there. And I mean, I was someone heading into this offseason that expected Tyquan Thornton to be cut during training camp. I just didn't know how they would create a roster spot for him. And then obviously during training camp, the most shocking thing of all is that by the end of camp, he had emerged as a starter. Week 1, he's the starting X-wide receiver, clearly did not last for very long. So, there were multiple offensive coordinators around who could have developed him. There was multiple coaching staffs now that could have developed him. They gave him plenty of opportunities. It never happened. So I think what it boils down to is that he wasn't a player that was worth taking in the second round.
With that being said, with this receiver group, with it coming more into guys didn't get traded during the deadlines, some guys were happy that didn't happen or whatever. Do you expect to see more consistency out of the rotation of these receivers going forward? I mean, I know he hasn't really been a part of it like that, but just overall, do you expect some kind of, just continuity or just like a rhythm with this receiving room on, okay, every week we're not guessing who's going to be starting here in this position without injuries? Do you see them being consistently going forward with their key guys or who's in key roles going forward for the rest of the season?
I do, and I certainly hope that that's the case as well. I think that, we'll continue to see a lot of Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas as really kind of those top two options. I think we'll see a lot of Jalen Polk moving forward as long as he can play well in that role. And then from the sounds of things, from Gerard Mayo this week, it sounds like Kendrick Bourne is going to be that third or fourth option in the offense. So that'll be big, getting him back on the field. I know he didn't perform very well in his return from the torn ACL, but maybe this week off can help him, get back acclimated, get back prepared to play. So that's who I would expect to be that top four moving forward. And I would hope that continues through, because that's something that offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt said this week, is that they're hoping to find those guys that they're going to rely on. It hasn't necessarily hurt Drake May yet, but they need more consistency at wide receiver. It looks like they're finally finding some consistency on the offensive line, but they need it there at wide receiver as well, so that Drake May knows who's going to be on the field, knows who's going to be throwing to, knows who he can develop a connection with now through the second half of the season.
Again, we're talking to Doug Kyed from the Boston Herald. The Patriots are expected to have, like you said, that same offensive line back, and they had a much better week last week against the Bears. Now, it was the Bears. This Rams front, Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt raved about. It's one of the best groups, might be the best defensive front in the league. It would be something if the Patriots line matched what they did last week, but do you think they can have another competitive sort of performance against this Rams group?
That's certainly what the Patriots are hoping for. I'm not willing to say it yet, just because, Michael Jordan has had weeks where he's really struggled. DeMontre Jacobs has had weeks where he's struggled. Ben Brown has had weeks where he's really struggled. It felt like everything just kind of came together last week. And until I see it for a few weeks in a row, I'm a little bit hesitant to say that, they figured it out, that this is going to be the group moving forward, that they can, consistently protect Drake May week after week after week, because this is a group where I would not be surprised if over the last 9 weeks of the season, whatever it is, that we do see 8 weeks of the season, we do see some more changes, because you've got Caden Wallace potentially coming back. You've got Cole Strange potentially coming back. Layden Robinson is someone that they've wanted to find a starting role for. So, if guys like Brown or if guys like Jordan or Jacobs, do struggle in this game or games moving forward, I won't be surprised if they shake things up again.
And last one for me, with that being said, with the offensive line today, what do you think is their best, course of action? What do you think should be the game plan against this Rams team, this afternoon?
I think you try to run the ball early, see if you can find success that way. I know that the Patriots have raved about that Rams defensive line. That is the strength of their defense. But I think that the passing game is at its strongest when the opposing team does have to fear the run. I think that's what we saw last week against the Bears work so well. But if that's not there, then I think this is a game where you can just kind of turn it over to Drake May and say, do your thing. Scramble as much as you want. Chuck it. Let's give you as many passing opportunities as possible. See if you can win this game for us. But at least try to run the ball first. But for me, I would turn it over to Drake May if that's because, for 4 weeks straight before that Bears game, Patriots running backs were averaging under 2 yards per carry. Then all of a sudden they figured it out against the Bears. Once again, I'm just not convinced that that's going to be the same thing permanent going forward. But yeah, that would be my plan against the Rams. It's tough, though, because I don't know. The Rams do have a pretty good defense that does start up front there.
He is Doug Kyed. He covers the Patriots for the Boston Herald. You can find him on Twitter at Doug Kyed. Doug, thanks for taking the time and joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex and Cerrone.
So we talked about it there with Doug a little bit, the Tyquan Thornton release. I want to get into that a little more. I also see we got some calls, 617-779-0985. We'll grab those next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub. You don't know.
And
Side. Jalen Mills covering for the Jets. And again, Drake May keeping the play alive, rolling right, eyes up the field, and throwing toward Tyquan Thornton.
Fantastic job by May. Great footwork, off-platform throw. Puts it right there. Make a play. Second-round pick who's been on the side of a milk carton, lets it bounce off his chest.
That was the final game of Tyquan Thornton's Patriots career against the Jets 3 weeks ago. It's Alex Barth and Cerrone battle here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. We'll go around the league coming up at the top of the hour, but I wanted to take some calls. I also wanted to touch on the release of Tyquan Thornton. We just did there very briefly with Doug Kyed, but Tyquan Thornton released in order to open up the roster spot for Christian Barmore. Doesn't come as much of a surprise. He'd been inactive for the last 5 weeks. That one game he played, he didn't play a ton. He had that drop, as you just heard there, from Bob and Zoe. Another miss in the 2022 draft, a player that, look, I'll admit, I liked going in, but I liked him as like a 5th, 6th, 7th round flyer. I was pretty floored when they took him where they did. I thought Doug put it well. He had the speed, nothing else. What I go back to is Kyle, if you have this ready, I want to congratulate Ryan for his new gig with Touch and Hardy, and Kyle Fabrizio is behind the glass. I'm sorry, it's still before 9 a.m. If you have this ready, Kyle, I apologize. Listen to what Alex Van Pelt said about Tyquan Thornton during camp, because during training camp, they gave him a ton of opportunities. And it never made sense to me. I left him off a roster projection because he wasn't producing. And then I went back and looked, and it's like, but he's on the field with the starters all the time. And then this was towards the end of camp when asked about Tyquan Thornton's role. This is what Alex Van Pelt had to say.
Alex, we've seen a lot of Tyquan Thornton.
Yes.
The first team. What do you like so much about him, especially in that it looks like the X role?
Yeah, no, his ability to separate is special. His speed down the field, his ability to run away from coverage and man coverage, all those things. And he's really been tough at the catch point this year, so he's getting stronger in that regard. Hopefully to see him shine here in this next game.
Yeah, that kind of stood out to me at the time as the player they wanted Thornton to be, not the player he was. You talk about strong at the catch point. Again, that play against the Jets. For those who don't remember, it was at the end of the first half, end of the first quarter, May rolls out, hits Thornton on that crosser, and Jalen Mills bumps him, and he drops the ball. Like, he was never going to be that guy. He was always a win spread. I mean, I go back to Damiere Byrd. He just wants somebody to run go routes and clear out the coverage. That's what he was going to do. So, yeah, it was the right move. They had 7 receivers. It was too many receivers. Could they maybe gotten something for him at the deadline? I'd like to think so. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being delusional there. But this is part of the reason. I guess this is my final take on this. I know I'm rambling a little bit. I just had a few smaller thoughts rather than one big take. But this is my final thought on this. This is part of the reason I want them to draft a tackle. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I know it's a new coaching staff, but it's the same front office. There's still, Mayo's the head coach. The system is kind of similar. They just can't develop these receivers. The development's been a big part of it. And I don't know that Tyquan Thornton, there might have been a ceiling on his development had they gotten it right.
His ability to separate is special.
Yeah, he's fast. But, you had to develop him beyond him being fast. And look, Ted McMillan's a really good player. Travis Hunter, that great catch yesterday through contact. Luther Burden finally got back on track. They're good players, but you don't draft a guy who comes out and is just instantly impact. Look at Marvin Harrison Jr., right, who's had his struggles this year, despite being that generational wide receiver prospect. So to me, that's something I want to see them address in the offseason through the veteran side of things, whether that's free agency, whether that's a trade. Get a guy, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, we've done the names. Get a guy that is already proven he can play in this league, and you can just plug and play. I guess that's my lasting lesson from the Tyquan Thornton era.
Yeah, I mean, I fell for it. I mean, I didn't know much about him coming out of the draft, and of course, once you hear the name, you start looking up everything he was doing. And the funny thing is, when you looked at his highlights in college, or you see his mixtapes and all the stuff they put on YouTube, a lot of it wasn't straightaway speed type stuff. It was like once he did that at the combine, it was like, oh, right. Well, he was really fast. he was catching a lot of red zone touchdowns when he was in college. And that's what I thought he could have the potential to do when he got here. I thought he was going to be a playmaker guy, could just catch touchdowns, get first downs. I thought he was going to be that type of guy in short field situations. And he just never even turned into that. And he had his opportunities. He had his opportunities this year. They kept giving him chances after chances, and it just never really worked out. In my opinion, I thought he was always too thin. I thought he never put on the weight he needed, especially coming off the injuries that he always had. I think he needed to be stronger at those catch points. I think he just needed to be a stronger receiver instead of just a gazelle, just a speedy guy. And I think that ultimately cost him. He just couldn't, like you said, the ball would hit his hands. As soon as he felt contact, the ball would hit the ground. I think he needed to get stronger, and he just never really turned into that guy. But the biggest thing with me is I think early on, I kind of felt that he lost his confidence. And you heard Jalen Polk kind of, that's come up a little bit with Polk early in the season, came into the season real confident. And it seems like the past few weeks or so, he's kind of losing his confidence. And I think every time Tyquan would build up that confidence, he'd get hurt or something would happen. He'd drop a pass, and then he's back in his own mental doghouse. So I think having confident young receivers, I think, is just as important as a guy that can run a 4.3 40. And I'm wondering, I'm hoping this doesn't happen to Polk and Baker, because Baker, to me, seemed ultra confident, and I think that was his biggest strength, and I think he has to hold on to that so he don't end up in this situation again.
Let's take a couple quick calls here before we hit the break. Deshaun in Virginia has been hanging on. Thanks for waiting, Deshaun.
Thank you, guys. How you guys doing?
Good.
What's going on?
What do you got?
I heard you guys talk about the situation about Ngakwe. I hope I'm not butchering his name.
No, you got it.
But as far as keeping guys, whatever, but in order to do that, you got to basically showcase that you're able to draft well in order to obtain or retain. So you got to show the ability you're able to draft well to see what kind of system you're trying to build. Because I remember talking on the Patriots pregame show with Paul. He's basically saying that what I was saying didn't make sense as far as trading these players, but I feel like that trading these players can get you at least some fourth or fifth round pick, so you can try to filter out the roster. Because when you look at it or whatever, I said, yes, it may not make sense in the Patriots way because they do such a poor job evaluating talent. So that's a major problem. If you look at other teams or whatever, they have drafted and hitting gems in fourth and fifth or third rounds or whatever. But the Patriots don't do a very good job because they do such a poor job evaluating talent, especially at wide receiver.
Yeah, drafting better solves a lot of problems. It's a draft and develop league. The Rams had the F the picks mentality for a little bit. They did win a Super Bowl off of it. A lot easier said than done. You draft well, you're going to be a good team, plain and simple. It's hard to go around that. Let's go to Ryan in the truck on Drake May. I haven't done a lot of Drake May talk in the first hour.
I know. Funny how times have changed.
As the Rook kind of settles in. So why don't you get us started here on Drake May, Ryan?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to call because it feels like it's a new day in Foxborough right now. I've been trying to get friends to go to the Pats game all season. Haven't been able to get. All of a sudden, you got 25 people getting together. It's a new day, and I'm really pumped, and I think the energy is here, even though we're 2 and whatever. I'm just really excited about this kid. I don't think he's the answer for us long term, but it's just he's getting us excited.
Yeah. Good call, Ryan. It's we got a ways to go, but that's what a young quarterback will do for you.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And just like one could ruin your thoughts. I mean, not saying Caleb Williams is the bad pick, but their fans are feeling totally the opposite right now. Even though they have more wins than the Patriots, they're still feeling different about their quarterback in their future based off of a few games. Whereas Drake May's giving you some kind of hope or whatever, and you just got to try and build around that and build off of it. So every little win matters and makes a huge difference in how the fan base feels. And the fan base powers the NFL. Fans show up, they buy the merch, they watch the games, buy the packages. So these quarterbacks move the fans move the NFL's money. It's that simple.
Let's get a quick check of the headlines. We'll come back, go around the NFL, Week 11 next. 90 seconds, no commercials here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Tire Studios, the Patriots.
Into the end zone.
Touchdown
for the Patriots.
WBC FM and HD Boston 98.5. The Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots are back at home today for their Week 11 matchup with the Los Angeles Rams. 1 o'clock kickoff from Gillette Stadium. Pre-game coverage begins in an hour, less than an hour. 10 o'clock right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. The Patriots made a couple of roster moves ahead of this game. Yesterday, Christian Barmore, activated from the NFI list, is set to make his return after being diagnosed with blood clots at the start of training camp. In order to make room on the roster, the Patriots released wide receiver Tyquan Thornton. Other notable NFL games today in the 1 o'clock slate, big-time battle in the AFC North with the Ravens visiting the Steelers. Another massive AFC game in the 4 o'clock window with the Chiefs visiting the Bills. And tonight, Sunday Night Football has the Bengals taking on the Chargers. In college football yesterday, number 1 Oregon just holding on. The Ducks sneak by Wisconsin 16-13. Big win for number 12 Georgia at home, beating number 7 Tennessee 31-17. Couple upsets. Florida beat number 23 Missouri 27-16. Stanford knocked off number 19 Louisville 38-35. Late last night, BYU's perfect season put to an end as the Cougars fell to Kansas 17-13. Celtics played last night. They went to overtime against the Toronto Raptors, picked up a 126-123 overtime win with Jason Tatum delivering the game winner at the buzzer in OT. Tatum finished with 24 points. Jaylen Brown had a team-high 27. The Bruins also went to overtime yesterday. They were the early half of the matinee at TD Garden. They lost to the St. Louis Blues 3-2. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub, your next update during Patriots pregame.
Let's talk turkey, shall we?
Blah, 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 blah. Oh, in the sports industry, that's what you say.
Got your talking head right here, buddy.
98.5 The Sports Hub. You're listening to Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on your station for the best football coverage. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Pick a target.
You pick it.
Take your pick.
Pick me. Pick me.
I did not pick. There was no pick.
Pick him up. You pick him up.
Pick.
I pick.
Pick me, pick me, pick me.
Pick the teams.
Pick one, jerk.
Week 11 in the NFL. Let's get right to it, Cerrone. We'll start off with the Thursday night game. The Eagles pulled away late to beat the Commanders 26-18.
Like, he's been winning here over and over and over and over. And you know what? We're the Philadelphia Eagles, so we understand we're going to get criticism.
Tied for the highest total of the week, by the way, 49 points. Philly needed that one.
Yeah, I think that was a big win for them. I think it was a statement, I think, on that stage, a division game like that. And I think that was a big win for them. My only thing with the Eagles right now, man, it's almost like you want to put them all in bubble wrap. Just don't get any injuries between now and playoffs, and you should be good to go. But that was a big win by the Eagles on Thursday night.
Also, are the Commanders on fraud watch? What are they now, 0-4, 0-5 against teams over 500?
It's not looking good. It's still better than what they've been in the past 20 years, but they're on fraud watch. Yeah, they're getting close to that.
All right, let's get to today's slate. We'll start with the 6-3 Packers at the 4-5 Bears.
A team that is known as the Bears. The Bears.
The Packers 5.5-point favorites going into Chicago.
Packers need this. They need it. They need this for their own mental. I think the Packers win this one. I think they win it pretty ugly, but division games, as we know, they tend to be a little closer, but they can't go out there and lose this game to Chicago, not after what Chicago's been through in the last few weeks.
I'm with you. I think the Packers' ownership of the Chicago Bears continues. Biggest spread of the week, and it's a doozy, as the Jags head to Detroit. 2-8 Jags take on the 8-1 Lions.
I like to do a little bit of rapping. Go ahead.
Mac Jones under center again. The lines. I was saying this to Kyle Fabrizio before the show. You usually don't see this line in the NFL. This is a college football line. Lions 14.5-point favorites over the Jags. I shouldn't need to tell you that's the biggest line of the week.
Man, I feel bad for Mac Jones. How does he get Minnesota and then Detroit as his first two starts in Jacksonville? That's ridiculous. But hey, this is what you got to deal with. Yeah, man, they'll be lucky to stay within 3 touchdowns in this game because I think the Detroit's type of team that could put 50 on you. So Yeah, give me Detroit. I think Detroit covers that 14 points, man.
There was that report last night from Ian Rappaport that, this could be it for Doug Peterson. The vibes are not good there. I think the Lions cover that 14.5. That's a massive line. All right, we'll get back to a game that's just over a touchdown. How about the 2-7 Raiders at the 3-6 Dolphins?
You have. Tell us everything. We want to go to a PFJ.
Well, in Oakland, there's an MD walks in. He sits up there. He's got the same seats. He absolutely is dialed in at PF Chang's.
Gruden to Barstool, such a good hire. Did you see the clip? Somebody did a supercut of him just grilling them all on football terms.
No,
it's really good. You got to check it out. Great hire by them. Dolphins are favored by 7.5.
That's going to be an interesting game. I mean, in Miami, you take the home team in that one. Is there much difference between these two teams? I don't think so at this point in the season, but I think Miami's trying to build off what they did last week to the Rams. So give me Miami in this one. They should win this game.
I think Miami wins and covers. I think they took a step in the right direction last week. They're back at home. Tua's got another week under his belt. Give me Miami. All right, we'll get back to Patriots-Rams. Rams are 4.5-point favorites, though. How about the 2-7 Browns at 3-7 Saints?
He said, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity lasts once in a lifetime.
Saints at home getting half-point favorites in New Orleans.
Give me the Saints in this one. Actually, I think the Saints win this one big. I think they put up numbers kind of like they did the first couple weeks of the season where they just get everything going. And mainly because I don't know if the Browns put up much resistance in this one, but give me the Saints in this one at home.
I'm going to take the Browns. I think there's a spark there with Jameis Winston. They're coming off the bye. They're rested. I think the Browns go in there and steal one. Big game in the 1 o'clock window. Highest total of the week, 49 points. The 7-3 Ravens visit the 7-2 Pittsburgh Steelers.
I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
He had another one. Did you notice he calls Lamar Jackson Mr. Jackson?
No.
I don't know if he's always done that or that's just a this week thing, but I noticed that a couple times. Mike Tomlin calling Lamar Jackson Mr., which I kind of respect. It reminded me, remember Terrell Suggs would only call Brady 12?
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. I respect it. But I never, if that was a thing before, I apologize. I missed it. If that was new, but that might have been new this week. Ravens 3.5-point favorites on the road.
I kind of got the Ravens in this one. I think the Steelers kind of get stuck in the mud against this team a little bit, even though, Russell Wilson's been kind of doing this thing. It's the guy has a career 100 QB rating, and you're still like, yeah, but I think he struggles with the big plays against the Ravens, and the Ravens get every big play they need against the Steelers. So give me the Ravens in this one.
Give me the Ravens, too. The Steelers have had a softer schedule.
Yeah, it's turning up now.
Real test starts here. I wasn't a big believer in the Steelers before the season. Yes, they're 7-2. I'm not saying I was entirely right, but I'm sticking to that take. Win this game, in all believe. Staying in the 1 o'clock window, we've got the 7-2 Vikings at the 2-7 Titans.
Seen ghosts.
Lowest total of the week, 39.5. Vikings 6.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, I think the only saving grace is I think it's cold down there right now, but they might have a shot. But Minnesota probably practices in these elements. But give me Minnesota in basically a blowout. I think they get up early and they turn it up as it goes on. So give me Minnesota.
I can't believe this is, what did I say, 6.5? Yeah, 6.5. Can we get another 14-point line? That Tennessee team is terrible. Terrible. I still can't believe the Patriots lost to them. That Tennessee team is terrible. Give me Minnesota. Last game in the 1 o'clock window for us, it's the 4-6 Colts at the 3-7 Jets.
Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets. Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Jump the gun there. Anthony Richardson back for the Colts, but they're 4.5-point underdogs in New York.
Yeah, I got the Jets because of that. I'm not a fan of Richardson. I wasn't a fan of his in college. He's always been a 55% passer, and I didn't expect that to change on the NFL level, and it's been basically worse. And I don't think he does this against the Jets. I think the Jets force some turnovers on him and win that one at home.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Richardson here in a couple weeks. I'm actually going to take the Colts to cover. I think him being back gives them a spark. And that Jets team's bad, man. I'm just not picking. I'm more so picking against the Jets, I guess. Into the 4 o'clock window, we've got the 6-4 Falcons at the 5-5 Broncos.
You like that?
Broncos 5.5-point favorites at home.
Man, this is like low-key a good game.
This is a great game. This is a great game.
It's a good game. The Broncos, I've been impressed with the Broncos. That's heartbreaking L they got last week, but this is a pretty good game, man. I'm gonna give it to Denver because they're at home, dome team in the South, going to Colorado, playing outside. So I give me Denver this one.
Good like 90s throwback, right?
Yeah.
90s era. Both
it's
teams
pretty cool.
Throwbacks in this game. I'll take the Falcons. I'll take the Falcons. I like what the Falcons are building too. We've got in the NFC West the 4-5 Seahawks at the 5-4 Niners.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back though.
The Seahawks 6.5-point underdogs going into San Francisco.
Yeah, I think San Fran covers this one. Seattle, they aren't the same team they were the first month of the season, and they're dealing with their own little issues right now. So I think the Niners, who are getting right. He had guys throwing hands on the sidelines, but other than that, I think the Niners are on their way back to being what we expected of the Niners.
They're getting healthy, which is important.
Yeah.
And did you see the Seahawks center retired on Friday?
Yes.
Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, like late in the week, retired. So, look,
that's not good.
The worse it gets in Seattle, the more maybe DK Metcalf starts looking elsewhere. It's a new contract this offseason. I'm going to keep beating that drum till I can't. I'll tell you that right now. Game of the week. In Buffalo, the 9-0 Chiefs visit the 8-2 Buffalo Bills.
That dad bod, man.
The Bills are 2.5-point favorites at home. Look, it's every year now. The Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season. The Chiefs beat the Bills in the playoffs.
Look, I mean,
same thing again.
Possibly, man. I think the Bills win this game. I understand Kansas City. They keep pulling these games out late. They should be a 500 team right about now, especially the way they've been playing. But they always find a way to win these games. But I just think Josh Allen just has these amazing games against them, and I think they win this one at home this time. But I don't know if it pays off in the playoffs one. But I think Buffalo wins this game.
I'm gonna give you kind of a weird pick here. Bills win, Chiefs cover. Chiefs cover 2.5. I think it's like a 1-point game. It's gonna come down to something weird happening at the end.
Like every Kansas City game.
Point conversion, missed extra point, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Tonight, Sunday night. So we're all going to watch Chiefs-Bills. You could argue the two best teams in football, two best teams in the AFC. I'd put the Ravens up there, but some would argue. So you get that great football game. And then here's the follow-up. Here's what's got to follow that act. The 4-6 Bengals at the 6-3 Chargers.
Like Moses, I'm gonna die leaning on my staff.
Now, it is Joe Burrow at Justin Herbert. So you do have that element. Chargers 1.5-point favorites, but not exactly the same caliber matchup.
I tell you what, though. I think this is an opportunity for people to actually see the Chargers. I think people see their record, they see the scores, and they pay them no mind. I think they kind of, I wouldn't say put everybody on notice, but I think they kind of show out a little bit tonight against Cincinnati while ending Cincinnati's season at the same time. I think the Chargers are a pretty good team that no one's paid attention to all season. I think people get to see that tonight.
See, I every week we're doing this, though, where it's like, all right, the Bengals season's over if they lose today.
And then they win.
And then whether they win or lose, like it's like, all right, and then, next week. So Bengals backs against the wall at the Chargers. I'll take the Bengals. I'll take the Bengals as a 1.5-point underdog. And then if that doesn't cool you off enough from the week, Monday night, 6-4 Houston Texans at the 3-6 Dallas Cowboys.
Where we're designing bad plays or we're designing bad concepts.
How about designing a bad stadium? The light coming. I don't know why it took so long for this to be a thing. Maybe because everybody was so blown away by that picture of Tom Brady, which is awesome, at AT&T Stadium. And I just say picture of Tom Brady at AT&T Stadium.
Wasn't that in 07 when they opened it?
It was 07 or it was the next time they went back. Oh, no, I think it was 07. Whatever it is. I say picture of Tom Brady at AT&T Stadium, and everybody knows what picture I'm talking about, which proves the point. But sun coming, they put the curtains up for Tyson Paul, so they have the curtains. They have those curtains.
What about just basic tinted glass? You're in Texas.
Tinted glass. Good call. Won't matter in this one. It's a Monday night game. Cowboys, though, are 7.5-point underdogs. What's going to be the tougher watch in that stadium this weekend? This game or Tyson Paul?
Oh, man. Whew. As a Cowboys fan, this game. Cowboy fans weren't even allowed in that building. They weren't even nowhere near that. They were just, a bunch of celebrities and YouTubers were there. But I think the Texans blow. How is this not a 14-point spread? That's the real question. I think Houston goes in there and cross-state rival and lights them up. I think they make a statement and try to embarrass this Cowboys team like everybody else is going to do. But again, give me the Texans in a big way on Monday night.
Give me the Texans. Look, at least the Tyson Paul fight had that the undercard fight, the women's.
The undercards, you had something.
That was a good fight. That the women, and I'm blanking on the names. It's Taylor and
the headbutt.
With the headbutt, yeah, that was good stuff. But this one, I think, not as much. 4 buys this week as you set your fantasy lineups. The Cardinals, the Panthers, the Giants, and the Bucks are all off this week, and that is Week 11 in the NFL. That includes the Patriots and the Rams. We'll get back to that matchup next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Is on the way on the Sports Hub.
Hey, it's Zone. It's football season. What better way to...
of the big name guy up there. At the same time, I would argue to say this is one of the best fronts that we have seen all year. And it's a young group, and they do it the right way. They play the right way. They play together. They hustle. They're all over the place. And so, our offensive line, they got to step up. They got to step up and really, a lot of people say it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity for them to, again, shut up the naysayers about not being able to establish the line of scrimmage.
Week 11, the matchup as we get back to it. You heard Jerod Mayo there. There's a common theme this week. A lot of respect being paid to this Rams defensive front by the Patriots coaching staff, by their players. I mean, they've been good. It's a good group. They've gotten after the quarterback. They've been able to stop the run, the 9th-ranked defense against the run as well. The one thing I will say, and it was kind of there in that clip, Mayo sort of caught himself saying, the front's really good, but
no names.
If we can get into the secondary, it's like, their secondary is good players too. But Van Pelt kind of said the same thing. Like, if you can put the secondary in play, there's plays to be made, and they're banged up back there too. I mean, that's part of it. So I know you talked about a balanced approach, Cerrone, and look, they should be balanced, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and try to take some shots. Now, you got to have time in the pocket to make that happen, and maybe there's some bootlegs or things like that. Last week, very conservative game for Drake May, and I'm okay with that. That's what the game needed to be, and seeing that they have that club in their bag, good. Because we didn't know that May could play that. He had one really bad interception, but for the and it was a bad interception. Like, he can't throw a pick like that again.
I think he was throwing it away, but
right. I don't want to come across like I'm excusing it, but like outside of that one play, I thought he played a controlled game. We hadn't seen him play a controlled game. I think this is more of a game where they're going to let him loose, and it's going to look a little more like it did in his first few starts.
Yeah, and I think, with their front being so good, getting the amount of pressure a couple of times I thought Tua was really trying to go out on workman's comp last week because he was taking some shots. but getting kneed in the head on that defensive play. I don't know what he was thinking on that. But anyway, do you see them spreading these guys out, getting the ball out quick? A lot of bubble screens, running back screens. You see the draws, things like that to kind of pick up the tempo, some no huddle, here or there, just to try and pick up the pace and get to that secondary, throw the ball around, short stuff, nothing deep, nothing major. But do you see them basically a lot of Pop Douglas underneath, a lot of tight ends, a lot of quick stuff? Do you see them doing that against this Rams defense?
I mean, that's going to be some of it. That's certainly going to be some of it because, again, you got to offset the timing of that pass rush. I think that's important. But I also think, like, especially with Kendrick Bourne back, Kendrick Bourne's a guy who you can throw the ball down the field to. Kayshon Boutte, him and May have a chemistry down the field. I think they're going to attack at all levels. It's just a matter of having the timing to do that. Speaking of Drake May, because we haven't talked about him, which feels kind of weird, right? But speaking of Drake May, what are you expecting from him today? And what are you looking for him? I don't want to sound too much like a broken record. It's keep the touchdown numbers down. Again, while it wasn't his most statistically dominant performance, I also don't think it was his worst performance. I know a lot of people did. He throws 3 picks the week before, threw 3 picks the week before against a team that had struggled to create turnovers. I know he made a couple plays late, but I don't think it was his worst performance last week. It's just cut those turnovers down because we're seeing him make plays elsewhere. And it's the ball's moving. They're not necessarily scoring, but the ball's moving, and it feels like they're getting closer and closer to breaking through. Just cut out the turnovers. That's it. And that one last week, like I said, brutal turnover, rookie mistake. Like if he doesn't make it again, and Van Pelt said this week that'll haunt him for the rest of the season. Good, it should. But if he can cut that down, it looks like he's starting to get comfortable. It looks like he's really starting to get comfortable and starting to figure things out. The other thing I'd say is, like, I'd like to see him slide more, but I've kind of given up hope on that one. He doesn't want to slide.
He's got a Josh Allen thing in him right now, and it's not. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But he needs to get bigger if he's not going to do that. I think he has to put on weight in the offseason.
He's pretty big. Yeah, you could get a little bigger. He's pretty big, but I think that this is going to be a big week for him. I think they're going to put it back on his shoulders this week against a good defense. It'll be a telling game.
I think he hits his 300 today. I think he gets his 300.
Okay.
I think one thing that's getting forgotten about last week's game is it was probably the windiest game he's ever played in his life. It was so windy out there, and he was still making some throws downfield, especially the one that in the half or whatever, that deep play, that booty. But I think with a clear, calm day today against his defense, that's, they're 27th in giving up touchdowns. I think they've given up, 16, 19 touchdowns, something like that through the air, 22nd in yards, and they're banged up now. Yeah. I think they get the plays down. That doesn't mean he's not going to turn it over. That doesn't mean he's not going to get sacked a lot. I think with the amount of pass attempts, reps he gets, whatever, and the playmaking in the backfield, the lack of defensive playmaking, I think you see some missed tackles here or there. Some guys get some big chunk plays. So I think he hits 300 today. Does that mean they win and score 30 points? No, but I think he gets his 300 and has a pretty good day. I'm getting the vibes that this is going to turn into an air raid shootout between these two teams, and both teams kind of making plays downfield in a back and forth type game. And I think he's going to have a pretty good game just for himself. I don't know about everybody else, but I think Drake May has his first 300-yard game.
No, I'm kind of with you in this being higher. Having the potential to be higher scoring.
Yeah, it's more explosive than people are kind of giving it.
I think we go back to Drake May throwing the ball 35 times, 40 times.
Mm-hmm.
If they give him time, so I don't know that I closed the loop on this earlier with Gerard Mayo's comments. If he has time, I do think that they can beat this Rams secondary.
Mm-hmm.
He just has to have time to be able to do it. But I think he could have a big game today. I really do. The question is, who is he going to be throwing the ball to? So Alex Van Pelt this week talked about, they're starting to figure out the group they want to go with. They have the continuity on the offensive line. Now it's just a matter of getting continuity at wide receiver. Is that coming today? Who will we see be the lead receivers today? We'll get to that next. Plus, your calls. You want to talk Pats with us, 617-779-0985. We'll be back real quick here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Tune in to the BetMGM Celtics Radio Network. BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Download the app today and discover the new look same-game parlay product, live bet tracking, parlay quick betting, and more. Please gamble responsibly. Hey, it's Zoe for the Albrecht Auto Group, and if you need a new ride, you'll get respect at Albrecht. They took great care of me once again, and I'm fired up to tell you I'm back with them. And when I picked up my new vehicle a few weeks back, not only because of me, but because they've treated all their customers that way for more than 46 years. So, if you're in the hunt for a Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, Infiniti, Nissan, or Toyota, whether it's new or pre-owned, you'll find the vehicle that you're looking for at a fair price at Albrecht's 7 locations. Connect with your next car or truck or SUV at albrechtauto.com. Tell them Zoe sent you.
Sokolov Law LLC, Ricky LeBlanc, admitted in Massachusetts only, Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. While this firm maintains joint responsibility, most cases of this type refer to other attorneys for principal responsibility.
In the locker room, guys love pranks and messing around, but the one thing you don't joke about are injuries. If I couldn't make a living because of a car accident, or if I was injured because of someone else's mistake, I need help. Sokolov Law has been winning in New England for over 40 years. I know a dynasty when I see one. That's why when it comes to lawyers, I say Jim Sokolov is the GOAT. If you've been injured, call Sokolov Law at 1-800-CALL-JIM. That's 1-800-CALL-JIM.
Make the sportsbook at Plainridge Park Casino your home away from home. Gather with friends and family and catch all the fall football action on New England's largest indoor screen. Enjoy epic watch parties, incredible prizes, and an atmosphere that puts you right in the heart of the action. Plus, experience the thrill of sports betting and fuel the excitement with delicious game day flavors. The sportsbook at Plainridge Park Casino, your game day headquarters all season long. Hope is here. Call 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. Live chat at GameSenseNA.com.
Like professional sports, life can be rough and tumble. Make sure you're ready to take care of yourself and your family.
the guys out there that give us the best chance. And, Kendrick did some really good things in that game. He's a big part of this offense. Just felt like there were some areas where he could improve, and that was kind of based on that. But he'll be a big part of us moving forward. He brings a lot of energy to the field, and his efforts exceptional. So that's just the way it went last week. It could change week to week right now, but he's a big part of our team.
That's Alex Van Pelt after Kendrick Bourne was benched last week, didn't play. Now says he'll be back this week. Also said the Patriots are getting closer to identifying the core wide receiver group they want to go with. Didn't say what that would be. You imagine Kayshon Boutte's going to be a part of it. Demario Douglas is going to be a part of it. And then you have Kendrick Bourne coming back. You have Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, and KJ Osborne. And how do those four guys fit in behind the rest of them, Cerrone? That's kind of the question here into the second half of the season. I still think they're going to give Polk chances. I think last week was a step in the right direction, right? Caught the touchdown pass, and we've talked about this. A lot of his issues seemed mental. Does that unlock something? I hope Kendrick Bourne still gets chances. I still think he's a good player. He is their most explosive receiver. And look, some people pointed to this week that, well, in 22, he got benched with the Patricia team. And then last year they gave him, a more limited role to start. And then this year, so now that's 3 coaching staffs that have had their problems with him. We talked about this when we talked about Tyquan. It's also staffs that haven't exactly been able to figure out the wide receiver position. Yeah. And look, in all 3 of those years, when Kendrick Bourne did get on the field, the offense looked a lot better. I hope he plays more. I'm still going to keep saying I'd like to just get a look at what they have in Javon Baker. I don't know whether or not he'd be good. I think he's kind of trending towards a redshirt-ish year, and it's going to be more like Kayshon Boutte where, it gets revisited next season. But we know that Kayshon Boutte's their number 1 receiver. That's pretty clear at this point. Pop Douglas is... So last week, Pop Douglas played the 3rd most snaps behind Osborne, but he played the 2nd most snaps on passing downs, which Pop Douglas not a blocker, so that makes sense. Yeah. So it's really about who's that 3rd option on passing downs, probably ends up being their 2nd receiver. I think they really wanted to be Jalen Polk. I think they wanted it to be KJ Osborne, but he shouldn't play again. You're just not getting enough out of him. So is it Polk? Is it Bourne? Is it a split? Do we finally see Baker? Who do you want to see get the snaps in this room, Cerrone?
I want to see Polk. I want to see Polk because I think Polk has the skills. I think he has the talent. I think he has the ball skills. We talked you guys were there all through camp, and all we saw from him was the way he looked the ball into his hands, the way he was making catches in traffic and stuff like that. And I think he kind of lost his way mentally for a little while, but I want to see him get it back. I think he's got talent. I think he has the ability to get open. I think he has all the tools. He's not the fastest guy on the field, but we all know that doesn't really determine the best receiver. We just saw the fastest guy they probably ever had in the history of the team just get released. But I think it should be Polk. I want to see Polk thrive. Baker, I agree with you on that. I think that's more of a down the line thing for him unless someone gets hurt or something like that. I was really high on him coming into it, but I understand the situation. But I think it should be Polk. I want to see Polk out there. And look, we criticize this team on drafting receivers, and we just saw with Tyquan Thornton in situations like that. But I think on the flip side, we have to give them some credit for Kayshon Boutte because he's turning into something that we thought he might have had or whatever. But the way he climbed the ladder from where he was, the offseason stuff he was dealing with, not getting his toe down in Philadelphia way back when, to where he is now, I think you got to give him credit and give the folks credit for drafting him and seeing this kind of potential in his game. So I think that's an unexpected surprise for this receiving group coming into it. But I want to see Polk and I want to see Boutte. I want to see the young guys kind of get their shot. I know Bourne is there, but I'm wondering if his knee injury is keeping him from being the player he once was, and that's what's holding him back. But I want to see Polk thrive.
That's a fair point. I mean, with a lot of these guys, we hear this all the time about the torn ACLs, right? It's that second year back that you really get going now. Bourne's a little bit older, and his age going to catch up to him at some point. That factors in. They did sign him to a 3-year deal, and there's an out after this year, but they did sign him to a 3-year deal, so he may not be done entirely. But yeah, you mentioned Kayshon Boutte. Their two best receivers right now are 6th-round picks.
Yeah.
Right, Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. By the way, get ready for next offseason, where assuming Javon Baker continues to play this very limited role this year, get ready for next offseason whenever we talk about Baker. Well, look at what Kayshon Boutte did in year 2 after not playing in year 1. And why can't he do that again? That is going to be, and it's because I remember it was Joshua Uche broke out his second year after doing nothing his rookie year, and then it was Anthony Jennings was that guy. And then we thought we were going to do that with Derek Rivers, too. That didn't quite happen. But I think the big thing for me, the most encouraging thing from the wide receiver room, when you talk about Kayshon Boutte and the credit he gets, Drake May trusts him. And there's chemistry there.
Yeah.
And for the revolving doors at quarterback, for the revolving doors at receiver the Patriots have had the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a while since we've seen a quarterback and receiver really be able to build chemistry. I think Mac Jones and Jacoby Myers had it a little bit. I think Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne had a little bit. And I'm not saying May and Boutte are they're far cry from Tom Brady and Julian Edelman in terms of the chemistry side of things. But you can see the chemistry, you can see the trust. Boutte is going up for these footballs over the middle, knowing there might be contact on the other side, trusting Drake May to keep him out of harm's way. And for the most part, to Drake May's credit, he's kept him out of harm's way.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that builds, because as we get towards the offseason, right, I don't think Kayshon Boutte is going to be the answer to that number one coverage dictating Tuesday morning meeting player the Patriots need at the wide receiver position. Can he be a high-level secondary option? Especially if, that chemistry can allow players to elevate above their skill level. It can be. So I'm interested to see how those two continue to build chemistry as the season goes on.
I think something what you just talked about there with chemistry and development between Drake May and Boutte. Going back to Tyquan Thornton, do you think this all went south because he was drafted to be Mac Jones's guy? Do you think he got injured. That played a part of it. Mac Jones gets hurt.
Yeah.
And I think Thornton's first touchdown pass was from Bailey Zappi.
Yes.
Do you think he's a victim of the back and forth between offensive coordinators, the quarterback changes, his own injuries? Do you think all of that led to his demise as a Patriot and his confidence and all that? Where would Tyquan Thornton be? Not saying Mac Jones would have been great. If Jones was the quarterback the whole time and the offensive coordinator was the whole time all the way through,
sure.
Do you think he would have ever had a good, what was the longest stretch he played with Mac Jones? I would love to look that up. Did he ever develop a chemistry and a continuity with one quarterback? I don't care if it's Zappi or Jones. Did he ever have that opportunity his time in New England? And as you said that, I was thinking about that when you said about Boutte. I was thinking about that with Thornton. Wait a minute. Did he ever have a good stretch where he was able to develop trust with any one of these quarterbacks that he's had in the last few years? And I think the question of that is no, and I think that's why he's out the door.
No, well, look, a lot of that happens in camp, and I think what you're seeing here, remember, Drake May was with the twos all summer. Kayshon Boutte until late was he started working, and he mixed in with the starters a little bit, but he was getting a lot of reps with that second unit. It builds up in camp. Tyquan Thornton was on IR halfway through his first 2 training camps. This was the first season in 3 years he played in an NFL opener. He started on IR the first 2 years, was in and out of the lineup. I don't think he developed a ton of chemistry. I think the bigger thing with him, you mentioned the lack of continuity when it comes to offensive coordinators. And this goes to that at least the offensive guys in the 2022 draft quite a bit. So Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, Bailey Zappi, Kevin Harris. They went into that season, remember, with Matt Patricia, trying to reverse engineer the Shanahan offense.
Yeah.
And those guys were drafted for the Shanahan offense. And that they let go of that before the end of camp. And then they ran that weird modified West Coast thing until they got super conservative. Those guys, those were all Thornton and Strange especially, not so much Kevin Harris. Thornton and Strange are very scheme-specific players. And they were drafted to play in a certain scheme that the Patriots essentially never ran. And ironically, they're a little closer to it now with Alex Van Pelt. It's not the same scheme. It's the same family. I'd say cousin, not sibling, right? Mm-hmm. So it's related, but not closely related. So that's why maybe some people thought Thornton could bounce back this year because it was closer to the scheme he was drafted to play in. But again, it wasn't. And that to me was the big downfall. There were other reasons. Not being
many
healthy,
other things. Yeah,
right. Not being healthy, not able to stay in camp, not being able to work with the quarterbacks, not being able to develop his game is number two. And by the way, that's two guys because Cole Strange, remember, missed most of camp last year with a knee injury. I think like 90% of camp last year with a knee injury. Now he missed all of camp this year. That's when you improve. You don't improve in October, November, December. I mean, you do, but that's not when you truly work on your game because you're getting ready for games every week. So missing time, this goes all the way back to N'Keal Harry. Yeah. Missing time in the summer for young players is so hard to overcome. And that's not the ultimate reason these guys didn't work out again. With Thornton,
but it plays a role.
Right. With Thornton, I think they misevaluated him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's reason number one. But they had a lot of guys miss time over the summer, and that catches up too. So all the more reason, and you see the benefit of it. A guy like Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
Should he have been playing last year? Was he good enough to, not be benched for the entire season? Sure. The player he is now is not the player he was last year. Yeah. He improved his game, and that happened because of the reps he was getting this summer.
And real quick, before we take a break real quick, we mentioned early in the show when Doug Kyed was on how Tyquan, we couldn't figure out why he was with the ones all offseason. The starting quarterback with the ones was Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
So he didn't get the reps with Drake May. If he would have been playing with the twos with May and Brissett, maybe could he have possibly been better now when Drake May came in as a quarterback. But it just all plays into the mystery of Tyquan Thornton. But very interesting.
Well, I think why Tyquan Thornton was on the field, they wanted the speed. It's not it's not a fast offense. Pop Douglas is fast, but he's not
quick. Yeah.
Right, he's more quick than fast. Tyquan Thornton, he does have rare speed. Like, that is true. Mm-hmm. And I think they're worried about being too slow on offense. But look, it doesn't matter if the guy can't make plays.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And they gave him every chance to win it. And Jalen Reagor, they hung on to Jalen Reagor,
That's
I think,
true.
for the same thing.
Yeah.
They were looking for one of those guys to provide some speed element. And like, I don't think they should have hung on to that idea as long as they did. I understand why they hung on to that idea as long as they did, but that's why. They wanted the speed, and it wasn't viable. So they're going to have to find other ways to add speed to this offense this offseason. Maybe that's at receiver. Maybe that's at running back. Drake May certainly gives them a little bit of get up, a little bit of juice in terms of speed relative to the quarterback position. But being fast only takes you so far. And look, you can't teach 4.2 speed. There's certainly value in that. I'm looking at the YouTube comments. I see people talking about Tyquan Thornton and the Chiefs. Wouldn't surprise me. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's okay there, if he actually ends up playing a role there. Because that speed, in that offense, the speed can get you enough. In this offense, they needed more than just the speed. And they couldn't get that out of him. All right, one segment left to go. Game picks coming up next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Get on up!
excitement here. Sports Hub Sunday kickoff week 11. It's Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle with you. Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. Taking up to Patriots pregame at 10 o'clock. Jim Murray and Chris Gasper standing by down at Gillette. Bob and Zoe have the call at 1 o'clock from Gillette, and then it is Leroy Irvin and Joe Murray. Post-game, they'll be back in here to wrap things up between the Patriots and Rams. All right, Cerrone, who you got?
I got the Patriots in this one. I think they take advantage of a team with offensive line issues, and that kind of coincides with them getting Barmore back and, Ngakoue and Keon White and those guys. I think they kind of build off that momentum and with their front seven from last week. And not only just the defensive line momentum from last week, the secondary played outstanding last week as well against a good receiving group. So I think they kind of continue a little bit of both of that. But I think the Rams' banged up offensive line and lack of ground game, something that teams used to beat the Patriots all season, I think it just is too much for the Rams to overcome coming on a short week to New England. And I think the Patriots offense scores just enough points in the passing game to win this one. So I got the Patriots winning this one. I think they get 27 today. I think I can see them about 27-24.
27-24. Okay. So I think, and Matt Dolph wrote about this week on 98.5thesportshub.com. This is a big test for the Patriots coaching staff.
Yeah. The real matchup.
Coming off a win, right? Coming off a win, trying to win 2 in a row. You got a Sean McVay, a really good coaching staff on the other side. The biggest problem with this team this year has been consistency. Mm-hmm. You don't know which team you're going to get, which version of the Patriots you're going to get week in and week out. And, part of me says, okay, they played one of their best games of the year last week. Does that mean they're going to play one of their worst games of the year this week?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can they be consistent? I have my questions about that. I'm with you. I think if Drake May can limit the turnovers, I think they can win this game. I feel similarly to this game than I did to how I did before the Bengals game. And obviously situations were a little different, right? First game of the year was still Jacoby Brissett. They weren't nearly as banged up on defense as they are now, but I don't know. I feel similarly. Going into that game, it was I can see the path to how they do it. And I picked the Bengals in that game. And I said, at the end of the day, I think talent wins out, and I feel the same in this one. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be closer than people expect. The number was 4.5. It's probably about right. I think it's a one-score game. I think the Rams win. But much like that Bengals game, if the Patriots are going to win it, I see how it happens. And it's what you mentioned. They stop the run. They force the Rams to be one-dimensional. They're able to make plays within the pass rush. They get Matthew Stafford uncomfortable. And then they do just enough on offense. They get enough protection up front that they hit a couple of big plays. This could come down to 3 or 4 big plays. Whichever team wins the turnover battle and then you hit an explosive, that could make a difference. So I have the Rams close. You said, 27-24? I'm a little below that. I'll go 24-20 Rams. But, I can see how the Patriots do it. This isn't one of those games when they played and granted it was Drake May's first start, but the Niners or the Texans, I was going to say, where you were just they're going to, they just got to hold on tight, and you got to hope they come in on an off day. I can see how the Patriots beat the Rams. It's going to be tough. I'm not picking it, but the path is there. This is a winnable game. I'm not picking them to win it, but it's a winnable game, if you know what I'm saying, if you get that. So we'll see what happens. Chris Gasper, Jim Murray will have more with Patriots pregame coming up. We will be back next week, same time, same place, 8 a.m. on Sunday. In the meantime, follow me on social, Real Alex Barth. You can follow Cerrone at Cerrone_battle. I'll have more coverage with Matt Dolph from Gillette Stadium throughout the day and recaps tomorrow on 98.5thesportshub.com. We'll have a new Sports Hub Patriots podcast as well. You can find that on the Patriots audio feed. You can find this show if you missed any of it, Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, wherever you get your podcast, also on the Sports Hub YouTube channel. All right, that's all the plugs. Cerrone, talk to you next week. Kyle, great job as always. And enjoy the game, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
WBC-FM and HD Boston. Patriots! From the opening kickoff to the final play.